Ta-da!
Welcome to the family with
Co-host Catherine Brandt.
Hackmaster Ralph W. Basham, MD, in interrogation room lighting.
Yep. And Andy
Inter-
Bernard.
interrogation room.
Well,
Yeah, it's on
CNN
camera.
called,
You're a
wanted
little,
to
you're a little
know.
overlit, I would say.
CNN called and wanted to know if we had any Nazis in the room.
Oh,
So we're interrogating everybody.
you want to start there? That's where you want to start? Because we can certainly start there.
I don't know anything about this.
Oh, you don't?
Nazis.
It was a big story this morning. Well, let me
Huge
read it.
story.
Let me read it for you, Andy.
Oh, is
French
this
are
about
really
Elon
rich.
Musk?
Yeah, Verlin
Yep.
von Musk.
Yeah.
President Trump's inauguration yesterday was mostly by the book affair, other than the fact that it was moved indoors due to the cold weather. Cable news can handle all that important stuff while we give you the sillier side. Trump did not put his hand on the Bible when he took the oath of office. Melania Trump held two Bibles in front of him, but he kept his left hand down at his side. I wonder why he did that.
That's interesting. I mean, he's not a holy man, I would say.
No,
so
but he's not
it's
anti-holy either, is he?
Anti-holy.
Anti-holy.
Unholy. There
He's
you
our
go.
first
Yes.
unholy president.
Oh, great. Now he's Satan instead of a Hitler.
For the record, there's no law requiring presidents-elect to swear on a Bible. You can literally put your hand on a copy of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah, there's been like a list of people who've chosen other books, and there are some very
Oh,
questionable
really?
decisions out there.
Like, what do you got?
Let's see.
Other books or no book.
Other than
Other
the
books.
Bible. Yeah, you can choose literally. Here we go. Books other than the Bible. Politicians have been sworn in on. What do we got here? John Quincy Adams chose a book of law, so it's been going on for a while.
There you go.
Let's see. Looks like Teddy Roosevelt didn't do anything. No book.
Okay.
No look, just like Donald.
Yep. LBJ just did a book of Catholic prayers because they couldn't find a Bible.
What? Okay.
JFK. Oh, lol.
Keith Ellison did the Quran. Makes sense. Tulsi Gabbard did the Bhagavad Gita. Makes sense. The ambassador to Switzerland did the Constitution on a Kindle.
Okay.
Sure,
go.
why not?
Very green. Very green.
And then we got the autobiography of Malcolm X. Oh, the Places You'll Go. A Superman comic.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so there's.
So this was not a big deal at all. What he
No, I
did.
don't think so.
Not at all.
Some interesting people out there.
Yeah. So is he like Teddy Roosevelt? Is it going to be a Rough Rider? Is he going to be a Rough Rider?
I can't see him being a Rough Rider.
You,
No.
you can't see Trump being the Rough Rider.
No.
I can't see him on a horse.
Or
Just
that.
from the reading I've done the last 65 years or whatever, Teddy Roosevelt would probably be my favorite president. I mean, he
He's
wasn't
up there
alive,
for sure.
but Teddy Roosevelt was a great president, don't you think?
Yeah.
Seems like it anyway. And by the way, one thing before we move on from this part, Melania Trump, she wore a wide-brimmed hat that spawned a ton of memes. The most popular one compared to, I'm sorry, I can't get this out, compared her to the Hamburglar.
Oh, I
She
saw
is wearing
more.
a Hamburglar hat.
I saw more V is for Vendetta.
V is for Vendetta. That's another one.
She is literally wearing the Hamburglar hat.
She is wearing a Hamburglar
indistinguishable.
hat.
I think that was a smart move on her part.
Why?
Because can you imagine having to sit next to and talk to people that raided your home,
I
Yeah.
know.
went through your personal things like you were a common criminal,
Yep.
all for politics, and now here
Yeah.
she is back in this arena again? I wouldn't be able to contain my contempt for having to even look at Joe Biden if I were her.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I'm serious. That's
Gee.
just, I'm sure she's just trying to keep all the photographers from, taking pictures of her glaring at somebody and turning that into a great big huge
Right.
thing like they all do.
All right, so we do have to cover this. And Catherine showed me a bunch of stuff. People showed me a bunch of stuff. There have been tons and tons of people who have done that, tap my heart and put my hand up.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
never heard anybody else being referred to as doing the Nazi salute before.
Even the ADL was like, that wasn't the Nazi salute. And
Yeah,
when
and
the ADL isn't making a big deal about something, then you know it's not a big deal.
and AOC is going after the ADL.
Of
Saying,
course,
yes,
she
it
is.
was, yes, it was, you're wrong. I mean, seriously, there is a brain worm
There sure
in
is.
liberal women's heads that sees a Nazi behind every rock, every stone, every curtain that's
guess.
pulled back. There's
Yep.
a Nazi just waiting to get women.
Yep.
It's just, seriously, at some point, do you realize how unhinged and crazy you sound? Always
like it.
seeing one every chance you get?
Seems like it, but I don't know. I just, well, people are very, very whipped up. I posted something this morning because I sat down and went through it in my brain after that, how heated everything got over the weekend with the, I hate Trump. Yeah, well, I hate the other guy. I hate this person. My wife didn't come, but I came. It was like, oh my God. So there's been a lot of that going through the world. Just people who I really don't understand why. And I'm not in that position, so I don't know. But why didn't Mrs. Obama come to the deal? She just
I
hates
think
Trump or
she's
something.
mad about something, I guess. She hates Trump so much, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, but wouldn't you honor your husband's office?
What does she care?
When
She
he
doesn't
was the
have to do
president of the
anything.
United States, first black president of the United States.
Well, she's never been proud of America until her husband was president. And
Oh,
now
that's
he's
right,
not
she said
president,
that,
so she's
yeah.
probably not proud of America anymore. I don't know.
I don't know either.
You have to ask her.
Why do people want to be so angry? Now, you're a doctor. You probably went through some psychology,
It's like,
psychological training anyway.
the people just get bitter.
Mhm.
They're just
Why?
so bitter. I don't know. And it maybe, who knows, people just suggested there's been a puppet government for the past 4 years,
Somebody
and
was
maybe
running the
she was
show.
involved with that, and maybe the other, higher ups in the liberal politics were involved with pulling the strings. If you want to believe that, I mean, there's just so much of this conspiracy stuff. It goes on and on and on. But if you want to believe that, well, then she could be bitter because she just lost her power.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, that's a
And-
good point.
Well, and everybody has been mean to her on social media, calling
they
her
have.
Big Mike, and she's really a man. And I mean,
Oh,
it's like
really?
at some, yeah. And I mean, it is really sucky that women have to go through all
I
of
agree.
this stuff. I mean, it's their looks and how big. It's just, for some strange reason, women always have to get the sexuality harassment online, and that is really sad. And I don't think either side should do it, but they do, and they do it a lot. And it's really, I mean, Melania, yes, she used to be a nudie underwear model. Now she's the first lady. Some people are going to say, hey, that's kind of like, the professional wrestler becoming the governor of Minnesota.
Hey,
I mean, it just doesn't make sense, really, but that's where we are, and that's what happened, and you just have to get over it. I mean, that's just move on with your life.
Yeah, you have to accept.
Yeah, you have to accept it and just move on. The interesting thing about journalism now is that journalists get paid for likes.
Yeah.
and
Yeah, they
clicks.
do.
They
Yep.
do.
And the more egregious and the more rage bait that they put out there, the more they get paid. And they become the journalist to go to.
Well, that's
They're the-
interesting that you say that because so Ethan the other day was watching Garfield and Friends,
Oh, I love it.
which is a cartoon from the late 80s. And one of the episodes they had on where was a guy moved in next door and he hates cats. So what happens is a talk show host comes over and he has him on his talk show and he sings this song about how the more hateful and outrageous that you are, the better ratings we'll get during sweeps.
Sure.
So, I mean, nothing has really changed
No,
No.
it
Yeah,
hasn't.
35 years.
Nothing has changed. But see, that's the thing. Is if you're going, so if I write a headline and it's just completely outrageous, like Elon makes Nazi salute.
Right.
Everybody sees that, and then they go crazy. I mean, you should see the French press has really gotten off on this
French press.
headline. Oh, they're just going
What
crazy.
happened to Western Europe?
I mean, they're
God.
really losing it. They're agreeing. They think he's a horrible human being. Blah blah blah. So what happens is that in tomorrow or today, people will start examining this, and they'll go, "Oh, I see. CNN took a tiny little clip and made it look like, yeah, you could say that looks like a Nazi salute.
Yeah.
It does look like that, but that's not the intent.
Right.
That's not what he did. He said, "My heart goes out to you." That's what he said.
And he actually said that.
He actually said those words, but they're
Okay.
never going to include that. They will never include that. But even so, even if tomorrow CNN says, "Oh, I guess it wasn't a Nazi salute," the damage is already done.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's already out there. The crazies have already decided that that's what it is for the rest of time.
Yeah, what's
Just
the
like
phrase?
the hands
It's
up,
like-
don't shoot. That
like-
never happened.
Page 1 lie, page 20 correction.
Exactly. So,
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, and that is in my see. This is what I don't understand. Okay, so the press knows that they've lost credibility. The press knows that they've lost leadership in their words. They know that people are leaving them for social media, and they don't do anything to regain credibility. They don't even try. This is the tragedy, because I don't know, when I was in journalism school at the University of Minnesota, I was taught that the press was supposed to keep the government in line. The press was supposed to look at both sides of the story. They were supposed to report what happened. They weren't supposed to be a political puppet. And that is exactly what they've become. And the other part of journalism is that if you want access to Obama, well, then you better write nice things about Obama. And if you want to write things about Trump, you'd better say nice things about Trump, or he's not going to talk to you. You're not
There you
going to
go.
get access. So the whole thing is a corrupted piece of shit now.
Well,
Kinda
And I
negative.
don't see how that's going to change if we keep on going the way we're going.
American media is corrupt. Western Europe media is corrupt. But Southern Europe is right on the level.
I told you I don't want any Greeks on the show today, Andy. Didn't you hear me?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Kostaki, people have, like I said, I posted today. I sat and watched this stuff, and 30% or 33% of my friends are Democrats. 33% of my friends are Republicans. 33% of my friends are independent. So I got 1% left that I can actually talk to, because everybody hates everybody now. It's like, oh my God, will you calm down? Right?
Yes, of course. I'm with you, brother. I'll be in your 1%. I'll hang out with you.
There you go. Okay, I want to run something by you because I'm glad you're here. You and the Hackmaster can handle this one. The Blue Monday Challenge. Have you heard about the Blue Monday Challenge?
No.
No.
This is going to be tough for most people. I'd say 99.9% people. Blue Monday Challenge, go 30 days without once complaining. You see that happening?
Does sound difficult.
That sounds a little difficult.
It's going to take a lot of alcohol.
No, that's true serum right there.
Yeah,
So
you need to
I
put
think
that
I'm
Complain
right
about
gonna-
this
amount.
idea right off the bat. Yeah, this is a terrible idea.
A lot of Retsina and Uzo.
Retsina reference. All right.
Retsina.
I don't know. I don't see many people signing up for it.
No, I don't. I think you're probably
Probably
right.
not.
I mean, it's a
no.
good concept. I think that, trying to
I agree,
turn the corner on, being angry all the time
That would be nice.
would be nice, and
Yep.
maybe that would be a start for a lot of people.
I'm hoping.
Yeah. Actually, my New Year's resolution this year, I've got like 6 or 7 different things that I want to assign a hyper focus on for a month. So I like this idea of getting it down to a month, because you get to sort of try something on, and at the
Mini
end,
resolutions. Yeah.
you see how it feels. Yeah. So 1 month I'm going to try to read a bunch of books, and 1 month I'm going to focus on friendships, and 1 month I'm going to not drink. I'm going to have a few of these sort of. I want to see how they feel over the course of like 4.5 weeks. So I like
get
this
familiar.
concept a lot. I don't know.
You're gonna get familiar with the mocktail. They're
I've worked-
everywhere. They're
I've
everywhere.
worked in bars long enough. I could stand there without holding something and feel just fine.
Yeah.
It is interesting though, because I've read some. I don't know if they're true. Who knows what's true anymore? That people under 35 that they're doing a lot of these sober Novembers and
Right,
Yeah.
right.
and a
Sober
lot of them
October
just
would be
aren't
better.
drinking anymore.
Yeah, they definitely drink less as a group than
Really?
my cohort. Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I don't know if that's because they're smoking so much geef
Yeah,
and
right.
they don't
It could
need it,
be.
or
Alternate choices.
I don't know. But it is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. It's I Tom Ryan. Do you remember that name? Tom is a comedian.
Yep.
Did the famous Morton Salt bit. Tom Ryan is kind of a heavy drinker in his regular life,
Oh.
and then once in a while he'll just stop and won't drink at all for like 4 months, and then he goes right back to drinking, 5 tall boy Coors Lights a night. Whatever. But there's something kind of, it's a little quirky. He's a quirky character. He doesn't have kids. He has his own weird life. But there's something kind of beautiful to me about that, of like, you could just turn the switch on and off and have these
Right.
sort of chunks of life. They don't all have to fit in some nice, neat order for somebody else. It's what works
Right.
for him. And all right.
I'd really like to know in that situation when he's the most creative.
Right. I want to know that too. I've
good point.
actually thought that recently. I should call him and knock this around with him.
The use of psychedelics, the use of THC, and those kind of things I've often thought that they may have a large part of creativity. Look how many great artists that were chronic users of THC and things like that. And if you look in antiquity, no one ever talks about the drug use for Mozart or the drug use for Bach, or did some of their creativity come from that same thing? I don't know.
Huh. Wow.
Couple of
I
things
mean, we know
want to bring
some
up.
famous writers, some great writers who are
Yep.
total drunks.
Oh yeah, writers can drink. That's for sure.
But I could say for me personally, I am way less good when I'm drinking. For me, drinking is the relaxation after the work is done. Some comics are drunk during the show, which I don't know. You got to get the words in the right order. Comedy is a very delicate beast. I don't know how they do it. But
I like
everyone
that.
has their own path.
2 bars walk into a guy.
Right, right.
It's like, wait.
I think too that a lot of it is, if you're a very creative person and you've created some really great stuff, and then you're not really finding that for a while, maybe turning to substances is a way of kind of coping and hoping that it'll turn the creativity back on.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if it's really the other way around.
Or
Why
is it,
people start drink is because or drinking or doing drugs is because they're anxious about
Right.
not being creative anymore.
I would say 90% of people are less funny when they're intoxicated, but they think they're more funny.
Yep.
Right.
This is true.
But there are
Right.
about 10% of people that genuinely do become more funny when there's like a little bit of something in their system.
I've always contended that talent seeks out drugs to try to recreate the high that they get after performing,
That makes sense.
because
That
that is
dopamine hit. Yeah.
oh, there's an endorphin kind of buzz that happens after a performance that I've noticed in other performers. They come off stage and they are flying for
The
about
post
half
set
an
glow.
hour. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they want that later, and you just can't get it with drugs. There's nothing. No, they get that drug out.
Yep.
Sign me up. No, because I think that's going to be a very it might be a very useful drug if it doesn't have the other trappings of
Addictive,
physical
yeah.
addiction and things like that, because
Yeah.
it might relieve a lot of stress in people's lives.
The other thing is, if you're in a creative field, it's a bumpy life. It's
Yeah.
often lonely, and there's a lot of rejection. There's some real challenges in that lifestyle. Not to mention that if you're a comic or in a band or whatever, you're not home and you're traveling around. It's a weird existence.
Yeah.
I've never particularly personally had, maybe it's dumb luck, but I've not been drawn to abusing substances. That's been easy for me. I was once accused of being a problem drinker, and I was like, dude, I work in bars where I get drinks for free, and I usually say no. I'm the opposite of a problem drinker.
Exactly.
I just shrug and go home when there's free drinks at the bar. Like, that's not a problem drinker.
It's true.
So it's never been a thing for me, but I've seen it up close, and it can be really hard for people, so
Well, I think that's actually part of why the endorphin rush is so powerful for them. It's because they work so hard and there's a lot of lows, so the highs feel extra high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lows are hard. And also the other thing, comics have a bit of a reputation for being a bunch of kooks and losers and characters.
No.
It
Well
it is
deserved in
true
some
that to be
cases.
drawn to this weird little craft, you're a little
Right.
bit of a weirdo at least. You're at least willing to have a non-traditional life.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, that's a different subcategory of folks. So
Yeah, I
they
could
might be a
never-
little looser around the edges than your everyday regular dude.
Being on the road for 6, 8, 9 months a year, I could never.
Yeah.
I'd be miserable.
I can't do it now, but I did it in my 20s. It was great. I loved it. Yeah. I would sometimes take the car and not come home for 2 months. I would just be out going from gig to gig to gig to gig. I loved it. But now it would be a terrible life for a grown up with kids. That's no way to live.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah. Once you have a family, it's extremely difficult.
Yeah. So now I basically lay out the schedule. I got kids these weekends, and then I fill in all the other ones as much as I can with gigs. So, but yeah, I there's all kinds. I think the reputation for comics of being flakes and troubled and sour, and there's some stories, some narratives about comics that I find to be not true. Some of the best
really?
comics, they're not sad sacks at all. They're very stable, smart, interesting, nice people. Brian Regan and Jerry Seinfeld, these aren't troubled souls who are striving to survive by getting laughs from strangers. These are smart, like diligent workers who care about the craft.
Oh yeah, we've had a lot of comedians on, and I don't know. I'd say a majority of them are pretty much normal people.
Yeah.
To at least some major degree, but
Oh, we've got characters for sure.
yeah,
But-
there's definitely like the prevalence of people with obvious mental illness is probably higher than the base population, but
Nick Swartzen.
it's not as high as most people would expect, I think.
Comedians are intelligent. If you're writing, you
Oh,
have
yeah.
an intellect that
Yeah, a lot of them, yeah.
that's real. I mean, and particularly improv, that's a real intellect that not a lot of people have.
Yeah, we've had a lot of comedians come in and they just like flip that philosopher switch, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, are we interviewing Socrates or are we talking about your next set?
Nietzsche.
But then there's a lot of them that
Nietzsche
come
in
in and they don't stop doing the funny voice and go, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh. It's like, okay, maybe there's a happy medium there.
Yeah, right. That's a narrative about comics that they can't turn it off. That
A
they're
lot of
always
them
on.
can't. A lot
There
of them
are
just
there
do
are
not.
there's definitely that type. But if you look at the arc of the comics, the very best ones are not like that at all. I
Right.
find.
Well, I don't know. Robin Williams.
yeah.
He was always on.
I
Yeah.
know. Well, Robin Williams, Jonathan Winter, Rodney Dangerfield. If you
Yeah.
watch they always seem to be in that comedic kind of. Maybe that was the only role that they were comfortable in.
Yeah, can you imagine Rodney Dangerfield in studio just being like, "Oh man, tax season's coming up."
Yeah, I can't see that. I cannot see that.
But those are on moments. Those are the only ones we see. That we can't make that judgment, right?
Well, no, they're not on when they're at home alone.
Those are
hope.
when the lights are on.
Yeah, that would
I
be
don't know.
bizarre.
Yeah.
You hear
Actually,
about those?
'cause-
What are they called? Method actors who they say literally never turn it off until the role is done. So like you start shooting, you turn it on, and you go home and you're still that character, and you don't stop being that character until the film is out. I don't know how common that is, or if it's even a real thing, but I mean, I've heard about it.
I'm not an actor, but that sounds corny and ridiculous.
It sounds-
to me, as an outsider
It sounds
of that
half
craft.
made up and half like pathological. Yeah.
So I have to ask the question, Kostaki, because it just struck me, as a matter of fact. Is Rodney Dangerfield's wife still around?
Oh, I don't know.
What's her name?
Joan.
Joan Dangerfield.
I hope so. God, she used to, after he died, she would come on the show because she would say, "Hey, Tom, I was going through some of Rodney's old suits and I found some jokes. You want to hear them?" And she would read the jokes. Remember that, Catherine?
I love this so much that she would just find jokes tucked into suit pockets.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've told the story about I think it was a Laugh Factory. It's It's the one place in L.A. that we were there, and there were comedians, and we were listening to comedians. And the MC came up, and he says, "Hey, we have a special guest tonight. Rodney Dangerfield's in the house." Blah blah blah. So he gets up on stage, and he's with his wife. Of course, she's in the back, and he gets up on stage, black socks, old man shoes. He has shorts on, and his shirt's unbuttoned. You can see this gray hair coming out of the top of his shirt. And he gets up there and he warms up the crowd, which was just very gracious of him to warm up the crowd a little bit with standard material. Then he reached in his pocket. I swear that's the way. He reached in his pocket, pulled out a piece of paper, like she said, pulled out a piece of paper that was torn out of a spiral. You could see the shredded edge is torn out of a spiral ring. And he unfolds this and starts reading. And he goes through these jokes. And he goes through the jokes, and there's laughs, and there's a calm laugh. And he goes and he lines up the last one. He goes and boom, hits the point, and nobody laughs.
Oh,
There's not a thing. And he looked in the crowd. He says, "Are you sure?" I thought this was the best one.
He was workshopping his jokes.
So he put himself. So at that point, he passed not but a few months later, because it was on Jay Leno, and he died certainly after that.
Oh, yeah.
He put himself out there. That talent put himself out there, exposed. Like, well, you know that. It's like, you know that you're exposed.
Yeah.
You are exposed. There is nothing in front of you. But,
Right.
You, air, and crowd. And he put himself there, and I was so respectful of that. And it was
yeah.
Are you sure?
Those
Well,
greats,
Joan
man.
is
They
still
work it.
alive. And she's only
Joan is?
70. So,
she's only 70.
yeah, there was a 33-year gap there.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah, Rodney, like,
So, yeah.
There was a gap.
There was
Okay,
a
never mind.
33 years. That's quite the gap.
I've seen some other giants do that. I saw Chris Rock do that one night at a club in New York.
Oh, yeah?
He just came in. He's not doing the big voice. He's not prowling around. He's just standing there flat-footed, reading them jokes, trying to figure out
Really?
kind of what, if any of this has resonance, and if so, what. He's probably recording it. I mean, some of those guys really do heavy lifting. I mean,
Yeah.
when Seinfeld came back, he retired his prior act. That whole movie that he did that was about the process, he really did that. He really went into clubs, got a standing ovation when they saw him, and was willing to bomb with stuff he'd never tried. That's hard to do. It's hard to do for a no name. It's really hard when you're a big name.
Honestly, the image of Chris Rock just standing there telling Stephen Wright jokes is probably funnier than anything he's ever had.
Stephen Wright jokes. I missed Stephen Wright. Where is Stephen Wright? What the hell happened to him? I love him.
Yeah, he went away. I think he's writing like screenplays and stuff.
He
He's
just
maybe
went away.
directing weird short films. I would love to see him back in stand up. I agree.
Me too. He was just
He
terrific.
was in the Emoji Movie in 2017. That's the last thing he did.
Really?
So he went on a high note. That's what he
8
did.
years ago.
But didn't he win an Academy Award for a short or something weird
I
in the
think so,
mean?
yeah.
Something. Didn't he do some of that kind of stuff for a while?
Not for a long time. He won an Oscar in 1989 for a short.
Really?
Oh wow,
nice.
maybe that's just stuck in my head from that long
Wow.
ago.
Oh, he got 2 Emmy nominations as part of the producing team of Louis in 2014 and 2015.
Oh, there you
Oh
go.
yeah, Louis, right?
But
Oh wow,
yeah, no, he hasn't done anything in almost 10 years.
wow. I'd love
Which
to
is
see
him
him.
for it.
I saw him years ago at an outdoor theater, which is kind of not a perfect place to see a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, true.
But
Yeah,
he's a crazy genius. You know, he's a singular
Yep.
voice.
Great guy too, by the way, in person.
Oh, I'm
In
happy
person.
to hear that.
You could not meet a nicer guy.
He did one segment where he had a baseball hat on during the, and he took the baseball hat on, and he said he was in a convenience store, and he comes back from the microwave to warm a sandwich. Tells the guy, "There's something wrong with your microwave," and his hair's everywhere.
Oh God!
He was a great comedian.
Oh
Still
yeah.
is. I'm sure he's writing. I mean, that's what so many people do.
Well, he's in his late 60s, and he was pretty popular for a while. He probably retired.
It could have been like I said. I used to love having him on as a guest. Because he just did that very laid back approach and all the rest of it. But he just brilliant jokes, really
Right.
good jokes.
Yeah, you're probably right, Andy. He strikes me as You
I've done
he
it.
Probably,
No,
he
I'm done.
probably lived very simply and never spent any money.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly,
Yep.
yeah. If
And I
ever
saw him,
exploded,
with 10,000 people. I'm sure he did a bunch of those shows.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if I had Stephen Wright level fame, I would definitely retire young if I could.
Yeah, I suppose.
I
The
think
Steve
most
Martin
people-
premise: one show, goodbye.
Exactly. There you go. That's all you need. I do not understand people who are like Tom Cruise. I mean, the guy's probably worth hundreds of millions of dollars at this point. What are you
Right.
doing? Just go buy an island and
Yeah,
hang out.
The adulation
The
I know, it's
adulation.
about
that's
They
what it
like the
is.
and
attention.
being in front of a crowd, Kazaki knows, a crowd of 10,000 people. Though that there, there's
No,
an
I don't know
energy
that.
there.
No, what's that
I'm
like?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
What's that like?
I picked it a scab. I'm sorry. That energy or that excitement for that is hard to
Yeah.
comprehend.
Well,
It's hard
yeah.
to comprehend. For
Donald Trump.
anybody
That's
that's
why
done
he
it.
became president again. It's because that's what he wants. He's got
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
He's like in the history of humanity. He's in the top 0.00001% most successful people, and yet he does not stop. Even though this presidency he's probably going to be like barely able to walk by the end of it.
How old is he?
Old.
Like 86
That was my
or something?
that was my
He's
criticism.
Let's see.
Old guy. He could go Biden on us in
He's 78.
6 months. 70. Okay,
So
well,
he's not
so bad.
he's not,
Not so bad.
incredibly old, but he's already been president, so that adds 20 years. So he's actually 98.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
This next presidency, by the end of it, he's going to be 118, 122. So there you go.
How old is he in president years?
In president years. God, so many great things are popping in my head about all those great comedians. And that, Kostaki, you and I have talked about that before. What an honor it's been for me for the last 40 years of all the comedians and actors coming through, and just there are way too many good stories. Like if I ever sat down and tried to write a book about just that, it'd be the thickness of a Bible, for God's sake.
I would love to read that book. Yeah, write that book, Tom.
Yeah, right.
I probably should one of these days.
It's
Some
one
of
of
these
the.
doggone-
It's my gift too that I get to hang out with these characters. I've been
Yeah.
milling around with them for 30 years. I love it.
Something just kind of dawned. Well, it seems as though there's way more musicians that have died from drug overdoses than comedians.
Oh,
That's
God, yes.
True.
I'm talking about John Belushi. John
There's been plenty. Chris Farley.
Chris Farley. But with those ODs,
Chris Farley,
John
yes.
Belushi was.
Yes, Chris Farley died the same age and the same drugs as Belushi.
Wow.
It's
Schwartz
speculated he
was
did it on
almost
purpose.
Yeah,
Well,
Nick Swardson almost
Hedberg
died, yeah.
went away
Yeah.
because of heroin. That was the drug
Yeah.
thing. Sure.
Okay.
There's
Yeah.
a few of them. Yeah,
Let's
and Greg
Lenny
Giraldo
Bruce.
too, one of my favorites, was also had serious drug problems, and that's what got him in the end.
I
Yeah,
love
maybe
the
I'm
fact you
wrong.
brought up Hedberg, because one of my great stories of all time, when Hedberg died, his mother called me and said, "Would you come and speak at his funeral?" I said, "Oh God, I'd be honored. That'd be amazing." She goes, "Well, I just wanted to make sure that we had somebody that knew what he was all about, come and do that, blah blah blah." A couple of days later, I get a call back from her. Tom, we've moved on to something else. I said, "Why is that?" I said, "Because he never liked you."
What?
She found out that Hedberg didn't like me.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that phenomenal?
Dissed from the
That's-
grave. Wow.
You were canceled by a dead guy, Tom.
I was canceled by a dead guy. I absolutely was, no question about it.
There are a
don't
lot
know.
of
How do you-
comedians who died young of things that generally don't take young people. Pulmonary embolism, stroke, heart attack,
Jesus.
Yeah.
cardiac arrest at 45.
Yeah, well, the lifestyle's not good.
So,
and drugs
I mean-
are hurting your heart.
I would
Yeah.
classify those as drug related, or at least,
Yeah.
Yeah.
indirectly drug related.
Yeah.
So, there's definitely, it's like Kostaki said, you're on the road, you're living in a hotel room, there's no one like watching you. So it's like,
Yeah.
Right, that's true. You're by
You know,
yourself.
it's
You fall down
1
and hit your
o'clock in
head.
the afternoon.
Goodbye. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
exactly. It's 1 p.m. I got 10 hours till my next set. Why not crack open a bottle of Jägermeister? It'll make me creative.
Who am I thinking of? The one that I think it was the Hard Rock Hotel that he died in his room. He just fell and hit his head and died in his hotel
Bob
room.
Saget.
Yeah,
I know
Bob
he.
Saget.
Yeah, that's right. Bob Saget
Was
died
it
that
was
way.
it the Hard Rock?
I think it was the Hard Rock in West Palm Beach, wasn't it?
It was the Ritz Carlton,
Or was it
Orlando.
Orlando?
Yeah,
Okay, I knew it was in
Bob
Florida.
Saget's definitely not a
Yeah.
Hard Rock Cafe kind of.
Yeah,
I suppose not.
he just apparently fell and hit his head. Decided to go to sleep, and that was that.
And that was that. Yeah, one of the nicest guys you'd ever want to meet. He was a great guy, no question. Did you ever work with him?
I watched him one night at the Ice House when I just was hanging
okay.
around in the back, and he was. I mean, I totally see like why he became a star. He was just so like alive in the moment, improving and goofing around, filthy and earthy and funny. It was really likable, way more than I expected. I was like, oh, okay, I see how he soared. You know.
No doubt about. Oh, I got to run something by. I need a vote on something because she votes no. Thank you very much. No, it's a social media question because
I also don't know them.
X is getting meaner by the day. God, people are mean on X. I don't know why that is.
Well, I mean, it's the presidential inauguration. You got to expect that. for a little
That's
while.
true.
Oh yeah,
That's
it's gonna
true.
go on for a good month.
And then you got the other guy who kicked in $400 million to try to ruin Trump and then found out later that it'd be better if he was on Trump's side. What's that guy's name again?
Oh,
What?
Bezos? No,
No,
Are you
not
talking about
Bezos.
Zuckerberg?
Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg, yeah. Yeah, so and then that's what, Facebook?
Yes.
Then TikTok was brought back. Is that any? I got to find a social media site. So far,
You don't want to be on TikTok.
I don't think you fit in on TikTok.
no, TikTok is it. So you think X is probably best for me?
I think all of them suck in a way.
They do, yeah, they definitely do.
But for you, I think X is probably the easiest interface to use.
Yeah. Facebook is like probably more your crowd, but it's also
Yeah.
the most loaded piece of crap website on the face of the planet.
Yeah, and
so-
Instagram is really user unfriendly, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I just hate Instagram.
Well, you guys do Facebook already for the show, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Doug does it, and Melissa did it before him. I hate Facebook so much. I try to do anything, and it just doesn't work. I had to. So, okay, I'll tell my Facebook is a piece of crap story after Kostaki's done with his appearance, unless. What would you rather do, Kostaki? Tell Joe.
Yeah.
Hear me complain about Facebook.
Hey, those both sound great. Can we do both? Let's do it. Why would
I
we
can do a
pick one of
segue
them?
for you, though.
I mean, it's only a couple minutes, so I mean, if you got time, then sure.
I like Facebook. Let's hear it.
All right. So Melissa has this job for a fence company, Shed and Fence. And they're doing like this giveaway thing where, so if you follow the page or like one of their specific posts or comment or whatever, you get put in a drawing. And then after a certain amount of time, you get drawn out of a hat or whatever, and you can win a prize. So that sounds very easy to set up, but it's not, because, for example, to get your followers, so you need to get a list of everyone who's ever followed your page. And there is a list. There's an activity page. It says when people followed your page and who they were. But you can't export that information. You can't copy paste the information either, because it just doesn't work properly. So what they resorted to do is they loaded up the page and they took screenshots, printed out the screenshots, cut up the printouts, and put those in a hat. Which I thought was very stupid. And I was like, okay, I'm going to find a way to make this a better solution. So I go in there, I try to, like get the information out of the browser, through the HTML. You can't do that. You can't just copy paste it out of there. You can't do anything. So what I had to do is I had to go into the element inspector, copy paste all the raw code into a text file. Then I had to write a Python program to parse it, cut out all the junk data, and get these names into a text file, which I could then give to them.
Wow.
So it was
Sounds like
quite
the
a bit of
screenshots was
effort.
easier.
just to get a list of names of people who follow you. Like, you
because
think
they encrypt it so that you can't just rip it and use it on a different social media platform. Is
No,
that
it's not
their
encrypted.
motivation?
It's just like the way that they present it to you. You know how everything these days is like, as you scroll, it loads in.
Yeah.
So it's like it used to be like, you open up your follower page and they all just get listed. But now it's like it'll list 10 of them and then you scroll down and 10 more will load in. And
Oh,
so
I see. There's not a
every-
complete list, right?
Yep, everything is like that now, and the reason it's like that is because of it's all JavaScript, which is a programming language that makes it work. But what
Right.
that does is it means that what you're seeing isn't the data, it's what JavaScript is showing you. So it's just you can't just get it out of the computer. So there you go.
Well,
That's,
this, Andy, is officially the nerdiest complaint of 2025.
Right there.
Not a lot of people are writing Python programs to extract data from Facebook, but
No.
I did.
But when is
You
when
set the
was
bar
Facebook-
high, Andy.
Is it 30 years?
What?
25? When was Facebook developed? 25 years ago?
It was probably it was
Yeah.
20 years, I think.
Yeah, at least
At
20.
least 20 years. Well, consider the advancements in.
Oh yeah, it's all patched together.
It's
It's like
it's a gamish.
oh yeah, it's like Facebook is the equivalent of buying a car 20 years ago, and instead of buying a new car every so often, you just buy the parts of the new car and weld them to your old car. And you just
Yeah, there you go.
doing that for 20 years.
That'll
That's
work.
what Facebook is.
There you go. There's your problem.
Yep, that is the problem.
That was beautifully said. Just metaphor for nerds. You should do a show.
Yeah, well, whatever works, no question. I told this story earlier because it came up, and I was asking people the same thing on the morning show. Which site should I be on? Which is the best? And everybody kind of agreed that X is probably because I can tolerate how mean everybody is. A lot of people can't. I mean, they are meaner than hell on there. Not to me, to each other, but. Kristen Bird said, well, why don't you go on TikTok? I said, I cannot go on TikTok. And she said, why not? And I said, because it reminds me of being 15 years old. This is a true story. I'll never forget it. And I would think of it every day I sat down to do my job if I went on TikTok. I walk up to the one of the doors at North High School in North Minneapolis. I'm 15, 16 years old. We had a very large black man who was head of security for the school, which is back in the 60s was very unusual to have security at your high school. But in North Minneapolis, you needed that, right? So as I'm walking up, this very large black man who was running security looks at me and goes, Bernard, you're late again. I said, okay, well, I'll get inside right now. And he said, well, TikTok, bitch. I could never get that out of my head if I ever went on TikTok. So, I mean, that's the problem. It's like, okay, whatever you say. Oh, what a life I've had. Jesus.
Hey, I did want to bring one thing up. Last week, I had a great experience, or an interesting experience. We were at Turks and Caicos, the Turks and Caicos Islands. We stepped out of our room to go have dinner. We were walking through this lawn, and I looked up, and I saw what looked like 20 or 30 contrails from jets.
Oh, yeah.
20, and then all of a sudden they started to change color.
Uh-oh.
And they just streaked directly overhead, streaked across the sky to the west, and then just turned into fireworks popping and snapping and things. You could see, just sort of see it looked like fireworks. And then about 10 seconds later, there were all sorts of thunderous booms in that direction. And here it was I watched that the Starship come back.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's right.
The atmosphere, it came back in pieces.
Yep.
Man, it was amazing. And
So it blew up?
It blew.
The
Well, they
top
lost it.
part of it, the booster, I think, made
The
it back.
booster made it back. That wasn't an issue. But the Starship, the top part, they lost control of it or whatever, and it came back and it re-entered directly overhead.
Yeah, I saw videos of it literally just exploded into a bunch of chunks that lit on fire, and it looked like meteors falling.
It was. So you see that, see this out of context, and I'm looking around. It says, "Well, when am I going to see the Flash? When am I going to see the Flash in Miami? Because we're close enough to see the nuclear flash whenever they burn it up."
You're going, it's
so.
the end of the world
As
as
we
we
knew
know
it.
it.
That's right. They ended up finding. Some people found some of the tiles floating up on the
Really?
Oh,
shores
really?
of the eastern side of Turks and Caicos. Yeah, they're up on the shores,
Huh.
so people
I
saw them on the
wonder if
beach.
those are like up for grabs.
Space garbage.
Why not?
It's like, hey, I got this piece of a spaceship. I'm going to take this home and
Yeah.
make a shrine or
Well,
something.
bales of Coke are free for the asking.
Oh yeah,
That's true.
and they're
In the
called
ocean.
what?
Yeah, I was going to say, what are they
Square
called?
grouper.
Square groupers. Yep.
Mhm.
Matter of fact, there's
That's
a
a great
chain of
name.
restaurants in southern Florida called Square Grouper. It's just basically a bale of cocaine.
Yeah, you
threw
want to be careful. I don't know if I'd want to mess with those. Probably got
No.
GPS trackers in them, and some unsavory people might come looking
Well,
for them.
this is back in the day.
Yeah, they probably didn't have
Yeah.
GPS trackers in
Yeah.
the 80s, but
I don't even know if I don't think the cocaine industry in Miami is what it used to be.
No,
Probably not. Cocaine isn't as big as it was. I don't think.
No, I think it's all fentanyl now.
Why don't we ask the comedian that lives in Los Angeles how cocaine's doing?
Yeah, everyone does.
I've actually never seen
right?
cocaine. I once was asked to do coke with Hedberg, and I said I passed.
Good move.
I
I've
must
never
politely
seen it.
decline. Well, because I mean, like cocaine was a big thing. Like businessmen would all do it because it would let you, stay up for 3 days straight. I don't think
Yeah.
fentanyl has the exact same effect when it comes to getting business done.
I've occasionally been in situations where it was being done near me, but I've never in front of me. So I've never actually seen it.
What was the movie? The movie that we watched, or the series that we
Mad
watched
Men?
with Sophia
LaGuardia?
what's her name? Yeah, but she
No,
was
it's Sophia
she,
Vergara.
Vergara. I don't know.
Sophia
Vergara. There it is.
Vergara. She was she was a coke dealer. She took over a bunch of territory. Remember that was
Oh, yeah.
What, the heck? What was her
It's a
name?
true story.
Griselda.
Griselda. That was a great series, and it really showed how much coke was rolling into Miami.
Jesus.
It's interesting. I've never seen people sniffing cocaine. I really have not been around that. And one of the main reasons I kind of avoided that is because in the operating room we'd use it.
Yeah,
You would at the time.
Oh, sure,
You were
yeah.
using cocaine.
it's an anesthetic and a vasoconstrictor.
Vasoconstrictor. It's the only local anesthetic that's that way.
Yep.
However, no one knows what the LD50. So
Yeah.
the LD50 is 50% of the people will die from a certain dose.
Oh,
No one knows
wow.
what that dose is.
Yep.
And when I heard that, I go, that's something to stay away from.
That's the same reason they stopped doing the ether.
Yeah. Well,
It's-
ether was another thing.
People would just suddenly be dead, and they didn't really
It
understand
also
why.
blew up.
Well, that too. It was
It
extremely
detonated.
flammable. Yeah.
But it's not, that was a scary drug. So I've never really seen people sniffing coke. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well-
Now they have to sniff lidocaine epinephrine solution.
Well, I'm here to cover everybody because I was in the record business for 10 years.
Yeah.
You think I ever saw anyone doing cocaine?
No.
Like every day.
Well, what you do is you put them on the record and you start spinning it, and then you just, as it's spinning, you snip it up.
Yeah, well, there you go. Wouldn't
Very
doubt it.
efficient.
It is all true. So, Kostaki, I got to ask you about this. And we only got about 5 minutes left, but I got to bring this up.
All right.
President Trump's inauguration, air kisses, cleavage, and Nazi salutes. What? I mean, it wasn't a Nazi salute. Why are they saying it was? Because it was not.
Yeah, well, I jumped on as I was listening to Catherine finish a little rant about this, and I totally agree that
Just a little one.
that the news media has gotten irresponsible. But he did sow the seeds of this interpretation on his own. He did.
No, I agree.
Retweet some horrific anti-Semitic things.
He did?
He has. Oh yeah, and he said several things that are easily interpreted as being anti-Semitic. So the ground has been sown by his own, his own doing, in my opinion. But yeah, of course, he's not doing a Nazi salute at the.
Where's he from again?
South Africa.
It is South Africa. Okay.
Yep.
So they're all nuts anyway there, aren't they?
Yeah, you can't trust those
That
African
might be a
Americans.
generalization. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe kind of is.
He grew up with some apartheid floating around. So
Yeah. Was he born in South Africa?
I believe so.
I wonder, actually. When did he come over here? Let's see. Where was he born?
Yeah,
he was
I don't know
born
his
in
story arc.
South Africa.
Mhm.
Let's
That's what
see.
they said.
Well, I mean, like, I knew he was South African by descent, but like, I didn't know if he was actually born there or raised there. When did he come to America? In 1995, it looks like, and he was born in 71. So yeah, he was raised in South
Yeah,
Africa.
and that was a little apartheid going on then. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, sure.
He's got a thing that he does on X, which I don't understand. If you can see this number, you're a genius. And it's all those patterns, those little
He
pattern
does that?
pictures.
I've never seen that.
What?
Oh, he does that every day.
Oh,
But the amazing thing about it is,
Hmm.
I can see every one of them. It's like,
well, that's
how-
all clickbait.
Well, yeah,
it
of
is all
course it is.
clickbait,
All
isn't
of
it?
that's clickbait.
Yeah, well, you could win $1,000.
It's just like Tom is finding out that you can't just like and follow every woman.
no, you cannot. A lot of pornography
It's
out
like,
there,
oh,
ladies
no,
and gentlemen. It's like,
another
whoa.
one. There's another hooker. I'm like, Tom, you got it. Not just
Are you getting the
blanket
text,
everything.
dude, Tom? Hey, how
Oh,
are you?
yeah.
I lost your
Texts.
number.
What time you going to be home tonight? It's like,
Yeah, right.
what?
Send me
Yeah.
Be
Bitcoin.
handsome.
Whatever. Yeah, but at least they put these little red circles with a red line through them saying pornography or something. There are things that they will alert you to on TikTok, which is another reason. Not TikTok, but whatever the hell the other one is.
X, is that what you're talking
X,
about?
yeah, X.
never
All of those
sure.
things, X and TikTok and Yoho and
Oh.
Yoo-hoo and like, oh, whatever.
Well, what percentage of the internet business is pornography?
A
Oh,
lot.
God.
Tons of it.
I would say-
we have the internet because of pornography and the business part of it, which was 80% of it at one time.
Yeah, people have been
Really?
saying that since probably the 90s.
Really?
Yep.
I don't know the upside. What is the upside? Hey, I'm going to send you a nude picture of me. Oh, boy,
Because
that's
some
exciting.
of these OnlyFans women are making millions of dollars a year.
Well, on
What do you mean?
Facebook specifically and X, that sort of thing, where they're like DMing you and creating these fake profiles, I think that's probably just like phishing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, what's in it for the guy? Oh, look, there's a pair of naked breasts. So,
There's a lot of very
That's-
lonely people out there.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
maybe that's
agreed.
what it is. Yeah.
A lot of lonely
And remember,
people.
it's an international audience. And
Oh, that's true. Yeah, good point.
you get to Japan, although they may censor that sort of stuff. You get to Saudi Arabia, you get to South Africa. I mean, there's a lot of places that are way more conservative
Yep.
socially.
Yeah,
And you're in
good
your own
point.
home.
Good point.
You have some privacy. It's a big world out there.
Mhm.
Who needs it? All right, Kostaki, TikTok, get back to your other job.
What was the next word? TikTok what?
Bitch.
Bitch.
TikTok, bitch. I'm 15, 16 years old. This guy's a giant.
Now I'm
Like-
going to think that every time I see TikTok.
Yeah, I do. Every time I
TikTok,
see it, I think of it.
And tainted.
And that happened a few years ago. Let me put it that way. All right, young man, any closing words?
Oh, let's do one football joke just to
Oh,
say.
I love it.
We haven't
All
mentioned
right.
football at all, have
Yeah.
Love
There are
it.
going to be
Well,
NFL
we're all
games
over
this
it.
year in Madrid, Berlin, and London. And someday they might even put a professional football team in Chicago. Good night, everybody.
Oh, see? I was leaning toward Minnesota.
I'll close with the closer.
I was leaning toward Minnesota. 14 wins, get in the playoffs, and just get smoked.
Oh,
By someone who
what a
got
joke.
smoked.
heartbreaking.
All right, we will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Got a picture in my pocket reminds me of this one was before. And every time I hear the same reminds me how you talking.